What is up, everyone? Sergeant Arger right here, and today we're reacting to the fourth part of the series. Probably the last episode, I think, actually. So, yeah, should be pretty cool. What if Germany won World War II, Part 4? Also, I just got a bunch of new subscribers recently, like 3. So, yeah, welcome. Thanks for subscribing. And if any of you guys have any more suggestions on what to do next, put it in the comments section below. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. 1953. Nazi Germany launched the Blitz. Ooh. Somehow, Adolf Hitler has conquered entire nations. Nazism is now the dominant force in mainland Europe.
When we saw what happened across the Atlantic, we were in shock. Europe went from our greatest ally to foe in just a few years, entirely transformed under the veil of fascism.
I don't know why, but the voice sounds really relaxing. I'm probably gonna go back and listen to it again. But, like... Wait, who are they talking about, though?
Of course, we thought we were next. Sympathizers were everywhere.
This is the fourth and final part to my series, What If Germany Won World War II? Due to simple delays, glitches, and issues with YouTube, I didn't feel confident releasing such a video until now. If you haven't seen the previous 3 parts, click here or in the description below to get caught up. In this alternate world, Germany has defeated the Allies, and has not only gone on to secure the land it conquered, but has redefined Europe in its image, becoming the most dominant force in the Western.
Whoa, I like looking at this map, but what? Okay, this is a bit... Okay, no. What the heck? What is Greece... What is Greece doing right there? No, why does it look so... No. I don't know how to describe it, but it just looks really weird. Bulgaria should have that land right there. That is not what Montenegro looks like. What the heck? No. And even like Montenegro back then, like maybe you could say the argument, oh, maybe it's different. No. And also, there was literally a country called Serbia right here that had this land where my mouse is. Like, what the heck? And Serbia was like an occupied, I guess, puppet state of them. What is that little strip of land doing with Bulgaria? I'm so confused. This map is so weird. So I guess this is a timeline where they just conquer Turkey. And Switzerland, too. What about Sweden, though? Why is Sweden just chilling there?
World. Hitler's armies conquered Britain and Russia, then implemented a genocide far larger than that of the Holocaust in our time.
Rude!
To mention the Nazi eyes such as gypsies, homosexuals, communists, disabled, and Jews have long been wiped off the map in Europe. Millions of ethnic Russians have perished from hunger policies, the Russian culture and nation destroyed, similar to the Native Americans, as German colonists migrate into these new lands. Military victories and a theoretical economic boom have solidified Nazism and other forms of fascism as a legitimate form of government. In Germany, the very existence of the nation revolves entirely around the Aryan race and defeating perceived enemies of it. Other fascist states have begun shaping their citizens to fear an enemy of their people as well. In the last 3 parts, I covered how Germany shaped this alternate Europe, how it transformed the culture, and how it began to interact with other regions of the globe like the United States. Part 3 had split the timeline into 2 alternate scenarios, one where Germany and America went to war, and another where they did not. One ended in nuclear annihilation, at least by my prediction. This is the second one. Keep in mind when I discuss this alternate scenario, I'm not saying this is what absolutely would have happened. This is simply my prediction, using facts and evidence from our timeline. Yet as we get farther from the events of World War II, say into the 50s and 60s, I'll be building off of the scenario I previously built in the last parts, instead of purely what happened in our timeline. We never truly know what would have happened, or if the Nazi Reich would have survived. This is just one
Probably
scenario.
not.
I'm going to cover this alternate timeline, where Nazi Germany and the United States coexist without full-scale war. This is going to focus on the large-scale effects of a Nazi victory. If Hitler's best-case scenario went into effect, what would that mean for other continents? First, let's continue back inside of the United States. In this alternate Nazi victory, the political dynamic is quite similar to the novel Fatherland. The United States and Nazi Germany are two powers separated by an ocean. The governments of these two countries despise each other, and neither side is looking to make friends. Not only that, but the United States is still aiding the British Crown in its own struggle against the Nazis. Remember back to when Nazi Germany conquered Britain? The British royal family fled to Canada, where the UK government in exile remains. Just across America's northern border, whatever is left.
I wish they would have talked about how America defeating Japan would do anything. Because in that case, they would have like a giant foothold in Asia, and then they would be able to border like the German land in Russia that they have, or the German land in other parts of Asia. So that could be like an actual possible land war, you know. So yeah, like I wish they would talk about that, because that is definitely a really big thing.
The UK government is still alive. The Americans and United Kingdom have been left in a tricky situation, as the Nazis have conquered the homeland of a vast worldwide empire. The colonies of the old British Empire now have three choices. 1. Recognize the new British puppet government as their leaders. 2. Remain loyal to the exiled British Crown. Or 3. Use the opportunity to fight for independence while the British system is in turmoil. So, with the Nazis conquering Britain,
Well, to be fair, that's kind of what happened in Latin America countries. Like, whenever Spain was invaded by Napoleon, the Latin American countries took that like as an opportunity to gain independence. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
a powder keg of political instability held down by British guns explodes across the globe. In India, the already settled independence movement would use the advantage to declare themselves separate from their old British colonial masters. In our timeline, when India did declare independence, there was fear of immediate civil war as the two dominant religious factions, Hindus and Muslims, disagreed on how to divide the new country, if at all. Hindus wished for a united India, while Muslim leaders feared Hindu domination and wanted an independent Islamic state. To prevent war and to appease the Islamic leaders who wished for a Muslim country, the British in our timeline divided the two and left the two groups to settle it for themselves. The following migrations were...
Yeah, and that turned out great. Okay, but like seriously, come on, India. When are we gonna get this settled? Like, why?
a disaster.
Why do you have to do this with Pakistan?
However, they prevented civil war. In this alternate timeline, with British authority now defunct, the Indians are left to deal with the situation on their own terms. The situation easily spirals out of control, and sectarian violence erupts between Hindus and Muslims over different regions. This happens across much of sub-Saharan Africa as well, simply from the British government no longer being there like a chicken with its head cut off. Since there are so many factors, I'm not going to predict the specific results of each colony's fate. However, in countries with a large Anglo population, the colony will remain loyal to the British Crown, such as the Falklands or even in already independent nations like Australia, New Zealand, and with apartheid South Africa. The UK government would attempt to maintain the fragment of its falling empire, colonies either being swept up under Nazi control, as in Egypt, becoming independent throughout Africa, or coming to Allied support in Australia and New Zealand. The war wouldn't end for the British once the Nazis took Britain. It would simply be extended to skirmishes. The United States in this alternate timeline helps the British maintain...
I don't know, it's so funny like imagining Hitler's mustache as a mouth. Like it just makes him look a lot more angry.
any control, but now must deal with the diplomatic relationship with the Nazi government. In a very realistic scenario, Hitler would have declared war on America just as he did in our timeline. Yet if he didn't, the debate between what America's relationship should be with Nazi Germany would be a critical moment in US history. American politics inside the United States would be shaped on foreign policy matters with Adolf Hitler. If the German Reich was to be permanent, then being enemies forever wouldn't be in the Americans' best interest. Europe was still a market after all, and this monetary value would influence American politicians. Two camps would probably develop: move to have diplomatic ties with Germany, or to remain staunch enemies with Nazi Germany. In our timeline, influential people already pressed for diplomatic ties with Nazi Germany, but usually this was because they held Nazi beliefs themselves. Ideas of race and eugenics certainly spanned national borders between Americans and Germans. Not only would Nazi-inspired Americans push for diplomacy and more Nazi influence, but so would politicians afraid of full-scale war, basically just like appeasement in our timeline. While the other side, such as Roosevelt, would remain enemies with the Nazi Reich, not giving in to any demands the Germans make, and continue to support the British in maintaining their crumbling dominion. I can't predict who would come to define American politics, as this is already so far from our own timeline, yet I predict a situation like this is entirely possible if no war occurred. What would happen to the rest of the world, especially those people that were not European, or even people directly close to the Nazi Reich? What would Nazi Germany's relationship be with the Islamic world? Nazi foreign policy was entirely determined by what Adolf Hitler believed in. As I mentioned in part 1, the Nazis had a racial hierarchy of people they considered inferior. It's a common misconception that the Nazis would have been best friends with the Islamic world had they won the war. In this alternate timeline,
There's actually a lot of people from the Middle East who fought in the SS and stuff like that. In the country of Iraq actually joined Germany. So it's pretty interesting. There was even this one story I saw, there was literally a guy from Mongolia fighting at D-Day as part of the German army.
Nazi
really
Germany would not, in any sense, become friends with the Muslim world or with Arabs. Hitler's foreign policy was always a war between Aryans and non-Aryans. Arabs, while not Jewish, were still Semitic, and thus inferior to Europeans in the eyes of the Nazis. However, the plight of the Arabs under British and French occupation did come to the advantage of Germany. In our timeline, Nazi Germany's relationship with the Islamic world was one of convenience. The Arabs and Muslims were subjects since the fall of the Ottomans. Revolts were common and they were not welcome. The Nazis and Muslim world, to sum it up, simply had common enemies. As we know, the Nazis were masters of propaganda and purposely changed information to suit their needs. When Hitler met the Mufti of Jerusalem, the Nazis popularized the meeting in an attempt to win over Arab support and destabilize the Allies. However, this doesn't mean the Nazis entirely hated the Muslim world. Hitler personally held kind views for Islam, seeing it as a better alternative for Europeans than Christianity, which he saw as too soft. Even going so far to say he wished that Islam had spread into Europe at the Battle of Tours. The Nazi view on the world changed by who they were currently fighting. That was it. It happened against the British, it happened against the Nords, it would happen against the Arabs and colonized people as well. If a group became a burden on the Nazis, they would turn on them, and it's very unlikely the Nazis would keep friendly relationships with them while they sit on the largest oil reserves in the world. If the Nazis had won World War II and the Reich had survived, the Middle East is an obvious target in this alternate 20th century. A war for oil would occur in the Middle East between the Nazis and Muslims, yet there would be no insurgency, as bombings and massacre would be used to quell any rebellion. The Nazi state was not to trade with people it saw as inferior, and even then it was to be as inclusive as possible with its goods. If the society was successful and German population explodes, then more people require more land to sustain it. Even in today's Western society, consumerism requires mass amounts of food, labor, and shipping to sustain such a population. While Nazi Germany may not have had the consumption rates of Americans, if the society boomed in population as well, Germany would need to keep expanding or collapse. I can spend the video saying if Nazis declare war on these people or not throughout the remainder of the alternate 20th century, but it's all the same equal possibility. Politics of the world could be drastically different in this alternate 1960 than in 1980. even if Nazi Germany successfully took Europe. Predicting the specifics of war, economics, and politics decades after our timeline split.
I already put like sort of my prediction in the last few episodes. I mean, the last episode, I think. But yeah.
Is an inaccurate endeavor. When some theorize about Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, and if you haven't watched, I know it's kind of late in the video, but make sure to watch like the last parts, because there's like a lot of times where you have like where part 2 has like 200 more views than part 1. Like how does that happen? How is that even possible? But yeah, guys, just make sure to watch part 1 first, because you probably need the context.
Germany winning World War II, they imagined the Nazis dominating the globe and surviving forever. This is entirely possible. It could have happened had the situation been right, who knows. But as we see time and time again in human history, empires and countries fall. Even if they do not collapse, they change ideologies. Politics and societies evolve from generation to the next. Even if Nazi Germany won the war, this doesn't mean the Reich that Hitler oversaw would survive forever. The 1940s German Reich that we think of certainly couldn't survive forever. So what is the biggest effect of a Nazi victory in this alternate timeline? Ideology. Ideology shapes mankind, shapes our beliefs, our morals, to an extent, how we see ourselves as people on this earth, the gods we worshipped, the politics we think, not in the current time, but those few ideas are able to stick, and through the butterfly effect define what we think it means to be human. The writings of Marx affected millions of people across the globe, either by force or by inspiration. Each idea is stuck at a crossroads whether it should survive or not. Fascism is no different, forever legitimizing this political experiment in this alternate world, at least to the inhabitants. When the Nazis lost World War II in our timeline, the most important part was the death of the ideology. The Nuremberg trials gave evidence to the atrocities Nazism spawned. Hitler's war brought death and destruction to Germany. No mass resistance ever occurred to defend Hitler's legacy. In this alternate timeline, this never happens. If the Nazis managed to maintain a successful nation until Hitler's death, the ideology he spurred would be immortalized. The best comparison is with the founding fathers in the United States. American politics is diverse, but no matter what, there is never a politician or mainstream figure that disagrees with the ideas of the founders and the Constitution. This is because the ideology has become a part of the culture of the United States. As the founders died, they became more than men, but idols to look back on and emulate. The politics of each party is its own way of interpreting the words of the Constitution. Not to compare the founders to the Nazis, but the same logic would still apply. If all went well for Nazi Germany, decades after Adolf Hitler's death, even if the Third Reich collapsed, there could be major differences between fascist and Nazi parties. He would remain an idol to these alternate people throughout the world. As generations are born and can't remember a time before the Nazis, the ideology is normalized in the eyes of the people. Now, this isn't to say the world would be Nazi, yet this would show that Nazism would play a much...
I showed that image like a million times in the first and second episode.
Larger role in mankind's future than in our timeline. Marx's ideas are emulated and debated today among communists. In this alternate timeline, as more people are born into this Nazi-influenced world, their own ideas on fascism might be shaped by the times they live in. A dark, alternate spectrum of political thought based around fascism. As the centuries would move on, people would look back on the war in ways we don't even know now. In our timeline, centuries from now, World War II will remain a defining moment in mankind's history. This single conflict shaped the economic, cultural, and political change that shaped our modern world. It will only grow more influential in the centuries to come, as the actions we make today influence the decisions of our descendants. World War II could have been the end to entire cultures. It already devastated so much of the globe, but it very well could have been far worse, becoming a new chapter in human history, one not led by Nazis, but one led by people inspired by Hitler and have an influential say in the globe. This is simply one scenario out of the endless possibilities. There is never any true way to know how the world would have been had Germany won World War II, but it's always interesting to theorize. Thanks for watching 4 parts of this scenario, and thanks for supporting me through the times of trying to get this out. This is Cody of the Alternate History Hub.
Wow. Thank you, everyone, for watching. That was a very cool video. Yeah, but make sure to, check out Alternate History Hub, check out their other videos, and make sure to comment down below your suggestions. But there you have it, everyone. The series is finished. What if Germany won World War II? Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was mostly accurate. Actually, I think it was completely accurate. I don't know if maybe I corrected one or two things. I don't remember. But yeah, thank you all for watching, everyone, and goodbye. Hello, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. And, turn on the notification bell thingy. And if you didn't, then make sure to leave a thumbs down. But yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. And while you're at it, go ahead and watch my other videos. They're probably just as good, and if not better than this one right now. Except for my oldest videos, don't watch those. And, subscribe to these people down here, my fellow sergeants. They're other YouTubers that I either know or I have in high regards. Yeah, even my cat agrees. So, thank you for watching, and have a great day.